Put the Celtar envoy behind glass before he draws his blade again. Joran Valt's voice cut through the command deck like a fracture line in tempered alloy. Around him, the Nexus 7 orbital station churned with diplomatic tension masked by ceremonial grace. The chamber, rimmed with curved laser plasma displays showing Earth's blue arc in real time, now rippled with alerts flickering beneath the summit proceedings. 12 alien delegations stood in uneasy arrangement beneath banners of the Galactic Concord. 47 species pretending history hadn't grown teeth. Joran stood tall, back straight as a rail, black tactical uniform uncreased, every fold exact by habit rather than regulation. The scar across his right brow pulled faintly whenever he spoke, earned not in war, but in the collapse of Concord's eastern embargo corridor 5 years prior, when trade talks became a gunfight over oxygen rights. "Status on the VIN security post?" he asked, fingers gliding across the tactile console beside him. "Still jammed, sir. They're claiming environmental interference," responded Linzek, his second-in-command, a man as dry as the Martian uplands and twice as humorless. "They're lying. Pull the echo record." Joran turned back to the glass-paneled viewport. Earth rotated slowly below them, half of its curve cast in dawn. The Pacific shimmered in the upper edge, clean and calm. From behind the observation deck came the fractured speech of translators distorting multilingual disputes. The Korath speaker's mandibles clicked too close to the Celtar's throat sacs. The Vin dignitary leaned into his translation orb, whispering something too low for the deck mics. Joran noted every movement. Peace, they called it. Harmony. 2 centuries of forced cooperation held together with embargoed chains and shuttle diplomacy. And today, on Earth's orbit, 12 species had gathered to celebrate that facade. Yet under the marble floors and ceremonial robes, blades were being measured. The atmosphere shifted, not emotionally, physically. Lights dimmed, not in flicker but sequence. Conduction paths choking, gravity panels dipped 0.5%. Joran's boots gripped harder as his internal balance wavered. The displays glitched, then stilled. "External telemetry," Joran ordered. Before Linza could reply, every deck shook. A low-frequency rumble throttled through the spinal structure of Nexus 7, forcing every delegate to the floor or against the walls. A vibration ran through Joran's teeth, his jaw clenched. On the plasma display, Earth's image blinked, updated. And then everyone saw it. In the middle of the Pacific, a fireball bloomed outwards in expanding rings. Not atmospheric detonation, not tectonic shift. It came from above, and it came with intent. The ocean pulled inward, as if the planet itself had inhaled. And then, it rose. Joran moved without speaking, sprinting toward the central feed bank. A technician tried to speak, failed. The station's AI pushed emergency telemetry directly to the bridge feed. IMP depth, 8 kilometers. Origin trajectory, unregistered. Wavefront formation at 300 meters. All Pacific coastline sectors in red. Civilian death estimates. "Mute it," Joran said coldly. The display changed to live visuals. Cameras from orbit and weather satellites picked up the cascade. Cities, shores, millions. It didn't look like water anymore. It looked like Earth was being scraped clean. Around him, the alien delegations erupted. Shouts in multiple tongues. Demands for security details. Orders barked in panic. The Celtar ambassador struck a Concord aide across the jaw. Vin guards withdrew behind shielding drones. Someone activated personal evacuation protocol. "Hold them," Joran snapped. "Nobody leaves this station." "Sir, we have multiple retreat requests from Concord Fleet escorts," Linzek said, pale now, breath clipped. "Some are already leaving orbit. Cowards. Every one of them. Standing on Earth's sky and running while her bones cracked below. Get me a surface sweep. I want projectile debris vectors, and I want them 30 seconds ago." Tex scrambled. The heads-up display cracked open data from automated scanning buoys, most obliterated in the blast. But a sliver of readings emerged. Energy profile, unstable quantum fracture, one tech muttered. Not registered in any Concord arsenal. Source? Joran asked, already knowing the answer. Unknown, no traceable vessel entry, no weapon signature, no acceleration profile. Joran slammed his fist against the bulkhead rail. The metal didn't give, but the crew around him flinched. Not from the sound, but from the silence that followed. He turned slowly. Across the chamber, dozens of species stood in fragmented clusters. All eyes were on Earth's display. The wave had already reached the western coast. Gone. Just gone. Someone knew, Joran said. Linzik swallowed. You think it was a rogue strike? No. Rogues don't use clean signatures. They leave glory notes. This was surgical, timed, measured for emotional response. He stepped to the center of the chamber. Concord representatives turned toward him, some pulling weapons, some reaching for comms. Joran raised both hands, but not in surrender. This was not chaos, it was an experiment, and you were all meant to be here for it. A murmur spread. Not denial. Fear. Recognition. It had worked. The false peace was shattered. I want all inbound Concord fleets grounded from our orbit, Joran ordered. Any ship that leaves without clearance is to be tagged and locked out of Earth space. From this moment on, Nexus 7 falls under Terran Command authority. You don't have jurisdiction, snapped the Korath officer. I do now, Joran replied, because my people are dying and you're arguing about evacuation seating. He turned back to the feed. The Pacific was no longer visible. Only a scab of rolling vapor and clouds, brown and red and alive with heat. The station quieted. No sirens, no announcements, just the distant whine of cooling systems struggling to rebalance against the power draw. A child, part of the Concord diplomatic train, began to cry somewhere in the chamber. Joran said nothing more. He stared at the display as though waiting for Earth to speak back. For the oceans to rise again, this time not in water, but in fury. What struck him most wasn't the explosion. Not the numbers. Not the collapse of Summit Order or the withdrawal of foreign fleets. It was how quiet the stars had become, and how Earth, wounded, bleeding, broken, had not asked a single question in return. Joran Valt sat motionless at the forward analysis table, sleeves rolled, fingertips blotched faintly with ink from manual charting. Earth's orbital profile spun slowly above the glass pane, warped by the ongoing atmospheric disruption. He hadn't slept. Couldn't. Across the span of the chamber, command staff moved in short, sharp patterns, no longer asking questions, only executing. Nexus 7 now operated on Earth's terms. North Pacific thermal clouds haven't dissipated, Linzik muttered beside him, scrolling through the latest surface scan. That wave hit 3 continents, sir. They're still counting. They'll keep counting long after we've buried what's left. Joran's voice cracked mid-sentence. He didn't clear his throat, didn't look away from the casualty arcs sliding up the display's margin. The number had crossed 79 million the last time he blinked. His gut told him it would pass 90. Above them, docking bay reports trickled in. Celtar vessels had rerouted course toward Jupiter's shadow line. The Korath flagged their cruisers as on protective standby. Vin diplomatic ships, once docked for planetary coordination, now detached and requested neutral clearance lanes. You see it? Linzik asked, glancing sideways. I saw it before they sent the forms. He tapped a sequence onto his command board. A cipher loader decrypted an intercepted exchange scrambled in Korath dialect, routed through Vin relays, masked as engineering logs. Joran ran it once, then again, eyes tightening with each loop. Phase 1 response confirmed, he read aloud. Subject maintains predicted cohesion. That's operational lingo, Linzik said darkly. They're talking about Earth. They were watching the strike unfold, Joran replied. Not as allies, as analysts. Lindsek looked down at his boots. The floor vibrated faintly as the station's generators adjusted for orbital drift. No poetry, no metaphor, just physical reality adjusting to a planet that now spun differently beneath them. Below, Earth had no time left for ceremony. A shattered shoreline didn't vote. The Terran Compact ratified itself in 4 hours. What once required years of negotiation and stalled summits was now forged in grief and necessity. Emergency transmissions from across the continents began converging into one channel. Leaders who once disputed airspace lines now shared artillery schematics without hesitation. Agricultural councils in Africa rerouted grain reserves to Pacific Rim survivors. Lunar factories shifted from mining modules to drone hulls. Earth didn't need permission anymore. It needed coordination. Joran watched this unfold from the central command bay, noting how fast unity replaced debate when death rewrote the rules. They've activated every shipyard. Assembly lines are stripping down orbital freighters, Lindsek reported. We'll have triple our carrier frame capacity by week's end. Combat readiness? 18%. But every technician's already building. Even school districts have sent apprentices. Joran stood, walking to the wall where global enlistment figures were updating in real time. A long scroll of names crawled upward. Civilian volunteers were swarming the recruitment nets. Engineers, programmers, even retired Marines pushing past biometric age locks. The number stopped at 2 billion. He stared at it, not with pride, with caution. Give me atmospheric tracking logs from the hour before impact, he said. Lindsek didn't question. Joran combed through sensor data, not looking for a signature, but a rhythm. The strike hadn't come fast or wild. It had traveled through blind spots Earth didn't know it had. But one thing was clear. The payload was optimized for a reaction, not extinction. Whoever launched that wanted to see how we'd organize, Joran said, not how we'd fall. The Concord Council didn't wait long. Within hours of Earth's unilateral mobilization, a diplomatic packet arrived. It wasn't an apology. It was an offer. Aid, yes, but tethered to foreign oversight. They wanted observers in every orbital silo, audit rights over Terran weapons caches, shared authority in Earth's naval command structure. In exchange, they'd send food, medicine, shelter modules. Help, at a cost. The chamber's lights dimmed as the council's faces appeared across projection panels. Scaled by priority, tiered by species weight. Not one of them looked into the camera. Joran stood before them with Earth's delegation, his frame leaner now, fatigue sharpening every word. You want access to our defense grids. You want to supervise our command nodes. And you think we'll agree while the Pacific is still boiling? Earth has suffered. But your response must not destabilize the Concord, a thin-lipped diplomat from the Halen delegation offered. Destabilize? Joran stepped forward. You watched entire coastlines erase themselves. We begged for an investigation. You sent committees. The aid package is contingent on accountability, said the Celtar representative, their translator stuttering through the species' warbled cadence. Unchecked escalation risks retaliatory spirals. Lindsek leaned in, whispering, They're afraid we'll aim back. Joran turned, slowly. They should be. He walked toward the broadcast console, tapped it twice, and cut the feed. Every representative's face vanished. Prepare the Terran fleet for full deployment, he said quietly. Lindsek nodded. That 120 vessels, old, patched, short-range in parts. We don't need range, we need clarity. The following morning, Earth's skies filled with outlines of warships climbing out of gravity wells. Workers welding hulls on midnight rotations barely paused to wipe the sweat off their brows. The moon's southern station pulsed as cargo runners ferried supplies to conversion bays. Orbital stations blinked back online, powered by makeshift reactors rigged from civilian infrastructure. Training centers broadcast 24-hour rotations. Combat sims overflowed. Officers retired 20 years, rejoined command chains without being asked. Earth had no time for parade drills. Joran stood alone on the observation deck above Nexus 7's secondary launch corridor. His eyes tracked the elevation of the Halvorn, a converted asteroid hauler now retrofitted with carrier launch tubes. Its engines roared to life, thick plumes venting from auxiliary flares. No ceremonial launch, no brass band, just work, just fire. Beside him, a new data scroll unfurled. 2 billion enlistments confirmed. Joran exhaled, eyes narrowing on the fleet manifest. "We don't want vengeance," he whispered. "But if that's what they expect, we'll give them something else entirely." He turned and walked back into the command deck, boots echoing sharp against steel. Earth had stood up, not as a victim, as something none of them had accounted for. The observation deck reeked faintly of machine oil and burnt polymer, a result of non-stop atmospheric reroutes through Nexus 7's backup ducts. Joran stood motionless against the reinforced viewport, watching 3 Terran stealth drones drift past Saturn's orbit on silent trajectory correction. Each glinted briefly in starlight before fading again behind calibration shielding. They were meant to be invisible. Joran didn't need to see them anymore. He knew exactly where they were headed. Behind him, the situation room buzzed with focused urgency. Data streams from long-range arrays layered across consoles and tall arcs, each one operated manually, no automation. Every analyst had been ordered to verify by hand. Linzik approached from the eastern alcove, nodding once without words before dropping a packet onto Joran's desk. "Payload came in clean. We stripped out environmental noise, compressed the trajectory spreads, then compared them to pre-summit logs." Joran lifted the transparent sheath containing the raw spectrograph overlays. He stared at the spike ratios, the energy trails too angular for any known civilian tech. "Anything from the Concorde's shared archive?" he asked. "Nothing matched," Linzik replied, "except one fragment pulled from an old fringe report, not officially confirmed, supposedly tied to a Cuth patrol vessel intercepted by the Varnix border patrol 7 years ago. It disappeared before interrogation." Joran moved toward the center console and overlaid the data. The shape of the signal wasn't just familiar, it was engineered. Clean threading between modulation bands, no loss across the curve. A weapon with containment channels that could only exist in theoretical labs. The kind Earth didn't have. The kind Concorde forbade. The kind Keth were rumored to deploy under diplomatic immunity. "Who's got eyes on the Korath fleet?" Joran asked without looking up. "Drones Vega 2, Halion 9, and Castor 7 are shadowing them. They've moved off from their prior declared flight path, now nesting near Daphon's shadow." "Saturn's third moon," Joran muttered. "Too cold for habitation, ideal for fuel cache drops." The map flared in response. The Korath ships were looping in tight triangular patterns. Shuttles moving between their lower frigates and a blacked-out platform tucked beneath Daphne's crestline. Refueling stations not listed on any Concorde manifest. Unregistered, unaccounted for. "They're operating off-book," Linzik said. "Transmitting in low-pulse encryption, piggybacking on solar flare static. We've matched the pattern. It's identical to pre-strike positioning." Joran's eyes narrowed. They used the aid recall as cover. They were never retreating. They were staging. He turned toward the command wall and keyed in a hardline to Earth's High Admiralty tier. 3 senior command faces materialized. Rear Admiral Durin, Marshal Volek, Grand Admiral Ross. All waited. "We've traced the strike signature," Joran began. "Not to any active Concord registry, not to black market tech. It traces to an energy grid only one species has ever been rumored to manipulate. The Keth," Roz said flatly. "They never arrived for the summit," Darren noted. "No explanation, no communication. We intercepted a signal chain in the Kuiper sector. We're cross-mapping now to confirm whether it originated from one of their autonomous relay nodes," Joran said. "But that's secondary." Volek raised an eyebrow. What's primary? This wasn't terrorism, Joran replied. It wasn't a demonstration, it was a systems test. The strike hit the water column, not infrastructure, not military. It was engineered to kill millions, while leaving Earth's defensive grid untouched. Silence. Not rhetorical, not dramatic. Just calculation, shared by 4 men trained to reduce horror into measurable variables. It was a simulation, Joran continued, and we passed it. Bollock grunted. You're suggesting the Keth fired a live weapon just to assess cohesion? Joram tapped his screen. A simulation ran beside his face. Earth's political structure, public networks, manufacturing response, volunteer index, communication, redundancy paths, all of it tracked, minute by minute post-strike. It wasn't just military. They studied how fast we'd unify, how efficiently we'd redirect. They were collecting data. On us. Darren leaned forward. Then this wasn't an act of war. No, Joran said. It was a rehearsal for one. 2 hours later, a secured bay in the lower hull of Nexus 7 was sealed under triple lockdown. The weapon fragments, recovered from the Pacific seafloor by a Terran salvage drone, lay arranged on a thick ceramic table. Technicians with magnetic gloves cataloged every segment, not for forensic display, for function analysis. Joran stepped into the lab, clubbed up, and approached the main lattice shard. Its edges were still warm even after 4 days. Not from kinetic heat, from energy containment that refused to fully dissipate. A faint shimmer pulsed along its interior spine, a nearly invisible filament, threaded like a hairline fracture across neutron-seethed housing. You see that? Said Chief Analyst Barron, his face drawn and pale. Quantum threading, we've only ever theorized that type of reinforcement. It's not structural, it's informational. It's storing targeting data inside the lattice, Joran said. Even after detonation, Barron confirmed, the weapon wasn't designed to erase, it was designed to remember. Joran didn't answer. He picked up a scanning rig and angled it slowly over the filament. The pattern began repeating in fractal intervals. Has anyone run a comparative model? Barron handed him a report slate. We matched the repetition to known Keth energy signatures. Low probability correlation at first, but when we layered in phase overlap data, it locks in. Exactly. At 300 Terran Standard Time, Joran walked into the Admiral's briefing hall alone, carrying nothing. The room held 5 men, each seated, backs rigid, uniforms recently reissued in darker tones of emergency protocol. I'm not bringing evidence, Joran said before they asked. I'm bringing consequence. The lights dimmed. A wall screen activated. It wasn't a report. It was a playback. Surveillance footage from Dafon's shadowed side, a drone's feed caught just before signal blackout. 3 Korath supply freighters, 1 Vin courier, and a defensive grid facing outward, not inward, meant to guard, not hide. They're not allies, they're proxies. The strike was a trial run, coordinated, with at least partial involvement from Concord species under Qth influence. Raz rubbed his temple. You want permission to strike? No, Joran said. I want clearance to gather. Marshal Volek leaned back. Recon? Not blind. Targeted. We hit their relay station in the Kuiper Belt. We pull their logs. We confirm the second phase before it begins. Darren's fingers tapped twice against his console. You're talking counterintelligence behind Concord lines. I'm talking survival, Joran replied. The following night, Nexus 7's upper deck dimmed. 12 shaped drones released silently into the black beyond Neptune's orbit, coated in refractive plating, each carrying signal splitters, intercept arrays, and silent loggers. Joran watched from the launch control gantry, arms crossed, face unreadable. Linzik stood beside him, glancing at the path trajectories. Think they'll see them? Linzik asked. They've been watching us for years, Joran said. It's time we learned how to watch back. The stolen shuttle drifted beneath the ice shadow of a dormant comet marked V-77. Its engine core throttled down to match the comet's trajectory by fractions. The hull moaned under shifting pressures, plates welded from stripped Korath cruisers, insulated with rerouted cooling vanes disguised as debris folds. No comms, no tracking signature. The craft moved like a ghost, buried inside a shell that had once served their enemy. Inside, 12 Terrans waited in silence, all dressed in vacuum-adaptive black composites. Joran Valt stood at the front, leaning against the angled interior bulkhead as the onboard clock hit 0. His breathing was tight, ribs bandaged from a previous fracture. The pain wasn't dull, it was tracking him like a hound through every movement. Across the narrow corridor, Specialist Rennick adjusted his gravity clamps and tapped twice on the hard wall. Movement algorithms confirm the Keth relay station hasn't shifted its pulse interval in 12 days, he said. Still automated, still dormant. Joran's reply came sharp. That doesn't mean unguarded. They don't build anything without a trapdoor. At the head of the shuttle, the lead pilot exhaled, flicking a thermal shield across the outer viewport. The comet's surface came into view, a jagged, ash-colored coil of frozen rock, dotted with artificial formations that didn't match natural tectonic behavior. 4 hexagonal pylons protruded from beneath the crust, each pulsing with a dim silver rhythm. "This is it," said Rennick. "Relay Node 9C. If the Keth ran their simulations through anything in this system, it would have been here." Joran keyed in a manual override for the docking claw. The exterior arm extended with a low grind. A hard shudder ran through the craft as it latched onto one of the pylon spines, anchoring them to the artificial cavity embedded in the comet's surface. "Guns up," Joran said, not raising his voice. "Masks sealed. We breach on my mark." One by one, each operative readied their magnetized rifles and sealed their faceplates. Pressure hatches locked behind them. The air thinned. Then the door hissed open, revealing a narrow, frost-lined entryway leading into total black. They moved in, boots clinking against the reinforced corridor. The relay's interior wasn't organic. It was structured geometry, walls coated in black circuitry that pulsed with algorithmic timing. No display panels, no visible wires, just forms. It smelled of oxidized ceramic and stale vacuum seal insulation. The air was dead, filtered too many times to carry any living trace. Specialist Nair spoke first as they reached the relay's core. "Command lattice's vertical power flows still active. Low output, enough to keep the processors warm." Joran nodded, stepping onto a raised circular platform embedded with a rotating control frame. The entire lattice shifted beneath their weight. From the center, 6 narrow beams of light projected upward. Not visuals, not text, but encoded bandwidth data, pulsing in 3 dimensions. "Can you decode it?" Joran asked. Nair was already unpacking his gear, fingers moving across a direct translate neural adapter. "It's not encrypted. That's what's disturbing. It's a diagnostic." "A report," Joran said. "Written by machines, for machines. Playback available in 3 formats. One of them is visual. You want to see it? Run it." A burst of static hit their comms, and then a screen appeared on the far wall, projected from refracted motion crystals buried inside the structure. The image: Earth as seen from high orbit. The Pacific coastline before impact. Flash forward. Water rising. Shoreline vanishing. Energy bloom captured in real time. But it wasn't conquered surveillance. This was recorded from above the strike. From the relay itself. "Time stop matches 5 minutes before impact," Nair confirmed. They watched it live. The footage switched. Internal readings now. Pressure metrics, power surge logs, simulated projections. One header stood out. Earth response threshold 81.2%, coordination achieved in under 36 hours. Rennick spoke, voice brittle behind his filter. They were logging our reaction times, evaluating political synchronization metrics. Another file queued. This one was longer, slower, a model of the same weapon. Same energy curvature, but scaled larger. Orbiting Neptune. What is that? Jorian asked. Designation marker calls it Project Fulcrum, Nair replied. It's a quantum cannon, 3 kilometers in length. The power output registered can reach Earth's core in under 6 minutes. Firing vector. Joran's hand gripped the platform rail. Trajectory already plotted, they were going to fire again. Without warning, the chamber dimmed. A cold air current swept past them, chilling through their suits. Lights on the far wall began to pulse, rhythmic, aggressive. Warning tones rippled through the floor. They've activated internal countermeasures, Renique shouted. We're flagged. Pack everything you've got, Joran ordered. Rip the logs, copy the fire vector chain and every thermal readout. 2 operatives flanked the exit, rifles raised. The walls shuddered, not like an earthquake, but like a program rewriting itself underneath them. From the far tunnel, shapes emerged. Thin, angular constructs moving without sound or friction, each built like a cross between skeletal frames and containment shells. They're not drones, Nair said. They're live commanded sentries. No autonomy. Quth are watching. Joran pulled a kinetic grenade from his vest, slapped the primer, and hurled it into the passage. The explosion was tight, directional, shredding the forward construct into curled fragments. We fall back, he barked. No regroup. They ran. 2 operatives were cut off by closing gates. The hallway compressed behind them, plaiting, folding inward to collapse the path. A 3rd soldier caught a blast of energy from the wall. No light, just a physical jolt, violent enough to hurl his body across the corridor. Joran took a strike to the side. His ribs flared with fire, his mask cracked but held seal. He staggered, kept running. The shuttle was already warming engines. Rennick dragged Joran up the boarding ramp as the hatch slammed shut behind them. The entire comet's surface glowed beneath them, lines forming across its crust, symbols rotating inward. It's triggering a cascade, the pilot shouted. They're erasing the relay. Boost us off, Joran yelled. Don't wait for sequence clearance. Burn the manual throttle. The shuttle launched, pushed sideways by the shockwave as the relay exploded. A core of white heat cracked the comet's spine in half. Chunks of debris spiraled into open space. From orbit, it looked like the comet had cracked apart from inside. Joran's vision blurred. Blood pooled under his vest, leaking slow from a wound deeper than he expected. The cabin rattled with gravitational pullback. Every console spat data, auto-navigation struggling to maintain a course. 4 of us left, Rennick whispered. Just 4. Joran leaned back, eyes burning from pressure imbalance. We've got the logs. Rennick looked at him. You sure it was worth it? Joran's eyes didn't blink. It's not about worth. It's about proof. Outside the shuttle, the stars pulsed behind a debris field still blooming outward. Cold, sharp, and indisputable. The Keth had tried to hide the truth. They hadn't hidden it well enough. Joran Vault stood before the Terran Council inside the underground assembly dome beneath Iceland's southern trench line. He hadn't removed his combat gear, suit scorched, shoulder brace patched mid-flight. One side of his face was still darkened from impact bruising. The room was cold, artificially regulated to match exterior geothermal output. Water dripped rhythmically from the overhead stalactites. Earth was done hosting ceremonies. Behind him, a 6-panel projection rig displayed the data logs captured from the Keth relay node. Each screen flickered with unfiltered proof, energy diagnostics, trajectory reports, and time-stamped surveillance of Earth's catastrophe. There was no interpretation required. No room for diplomatic massage. Councillor Brask of North Africa was the first to speak. This weapon, Fulcrum, you're certain it's operational? Joran tapped a console, The footage of the cannon filled the largest display. 3 kilometers long, encased in gravitational dampeners, its targeting array calibrated directly for Earth's magnetic pole shift. "It's charging now," Joran said. "We estimate 3 Earth rotations before it hits stable fire threshold." Another counselor rose, Director Halvin of the Martian Aerostat Assembly. "The Keth will deny this. If we broadcast it, we fracture the Concorde overnight." Joran looked him straight in the eye. "Then let it fracture." Silence followed, thick and uneven. The only sound came from an old ventilation shaft groaning behind the wall. "They'll label us insubordinate," Brask said. "Earth would be blacklisted, cut from the conquered trade routes, left alone." "We're already alone," Joran answered. "We just haven't admitted it yet." The Concord Council convened later that night. Earth uploaded the data through a secure diplomatic line. 24 species received the transmission. 17 replied. 9 dismissed the footage as manipulated. 6 demanded more time. 2 asked Earth to stand down and await investigation. The Keth remained silent. No fleet movement, no defense, no condemnation. As the replies filtered in, Earth's High Command stood in the subterranean war chamber beneath Luna's Mare Tranquillitatis. A room built during the last orbital crisis, long thought obsolete. Joran stood at the far wall, one arm folded across his midsection, the other resting against a surface map. Below the topography, a blinking thread of code ran through the stone, a signal he'd waited weeks to see activated. "Project Valence?" "Confirmation just hit from Vault 6, said Commander Theron, head of internal Black Projects. "Jam array is ready for sync. We'll be linked with shipboard nodes within 32 hours. Joran nodded. "Any signal it blocks must be full spectrum, no ripple echoes. It will blind them entirely. For 30 minutes they won't be able to target." Across the room, Fleet Admiral Soren leaned forward. "That gives us one shot. If we miss..." "We won't," Joran said. Soren stared. "You're proposing to launch without Concorde authorization?" "No," Joran said. "I'm stating that we're launching. Authorization is irrelevant." By morning, resignations flooded the diplomatic circuits. 12 senior envoys from Earth's Concord mission submitted official withdrawal notices. 4 were intercepted mid-transmission and pulled from their stations. They didn't resist. They had nothing left to defend. Meanwhile, Earth's orbital rings rotated into formation. The 120-ship fleet, hastily rebuilt and upgraded over the past month, now hovered in staggered gridlock above the southern hemisphere. Each ship's identifier tag was scrubbed. No IFF beacon, no Concorde acknowledgement. In Earth's lower command stratum, Joran boarded the Resolve, the Terran flagship constructed from overlapping carrier decks and reinforced sensor cloaks. She was an ugly ship, angular, built for durability, not elegance. He liked her instantly. As he entered the command tower, his promotion badge was waiting, a small obsidian clasp embedded with an encoded authority seal. Strategic Director. Earth's highest non-elected military command. He clipped it on and faced the bridge. "Where's our vector?" he asked. "Straight for Neptune. 5 shifts to arrival," said the helm officer. "All wings. Report combat ready." Joran paced to the forward display wall, staring through the triple-pane viewport. Neptune hung in the distance, rotating slowly, its upper band wrapped in storm convection that pulsed blue in the lens overlay. "Are we being tracked?" he asked. "No Concorde signal lock. Either they can't see us, or they've chosen to look away." Joran didn't answer. He reached for the comm unit. "Begin transmission," he ordered. His voice echoed throughout the ship. Every crewman, from tactical to engineering, paused to listen. "We're not diplomats anymore. We're not an outpost. We're not a fringe member. The Conqueror watched us burn, then asked us to sit still. We gave them a chance to stand beside us. They passed." He took one breath, steady. "This isn't vengeance. It's not strategy. This is correction. On the lower screen, the ship's forward cannons began charging, not for firing, but to prime the jammer core embedded in their capacitors. Outside, the rest of the fleet pivoted, following Resolve's lead. No announcements, no ceremony. Earth had made its choice. Joran turned back to the command crew. "We are not waiting to be judged," he said. "We've already been sentenced." Neptune filled the screen like a swollen bruise, its storm bands curling in slow violence across the atmosphere. The Resolve held station behind the moon Proteus, flanked by 3 Earth-heavy cruisers and 2 stealth corvettes on silent burn. Frost collected around the outer decks where the cold cut through unshielded surfaces, but no one inside the flagship had time to notice. Joran Volt stood in the forward operations bay, one hand resting on the side of a reinforced tactical pillar. The ship's frame vibrated lightly, not from weapon discharge, but from gravitational tension. They were caught in Neptune's upper drag field, hovering just low enough to avoid early detection. The walls creaked under the strain, tight bolts locking against heat shifts in the hull. A junior officer called out from the relay console. "Q signal networks are stable. They haven't adjusted their command architecture." "They won't," Joran replied. "Their arrogance is engineered." Rear Admiral Soren's face appeared across the primary bridge frame. "You sure about this angle? We're hitting 38 cruisers stacked across 4 tiers. No backup." "They're relying on automation. Predictive maneuver models. They've never fought anything irregular." Joran turned and walked across the bridge. "We break their expectations. We stay alive." He pointed to a secondary projection, each Terran ship tagged in its own quadrant. "No symmetry. No rotational drift. You fly crooked. You fire on timers no AI would schedule." One of the younger tacticians frowned. "Won't that create overlap? Friendly fire risks?" "We're not trying to avoid risk," Joran said. "We're trying to look insane." The fleet surged forward. 80 Terran ships, frigates, converted mining hulks, assault shuttles, punched out from the shadows, their burn signatures scrambling across multiple wavelengths to create misreads in enemy sensors. The defenses activated immediately. 40 cruisers emerged in concentric loops above Neptune's orbit, forming tight predictive walls backed by layered fire zones. Their reaction was clean, almost surgical, just not fast enough. Terran ships split into erratic formations. One cruiser inverted its yaw mid-run. A freighter dumped decoy drones at a 30-degree angle from target. 2 corvettes broke rank, spinning on off-axis vectors. Every move contradicted standard engagement protocol. The Keth responded by halting all movement. Their systems couldn't model the chaos. From the Resolve's command floor, Joran watched the error margins spike on the enemy readouts. "There," he said. "They're recalculating." "Keth command tree has stalled," a data officer confirmed. "Decision lag over 7 seconds." "Drop the jammer," Joran ordered. The launch cradle under the Resolve cracked open. A small, unmarked container rocketed toward the orbital curve. No light, no signal, just kinetic thrust. Halfway to its target, it split open, deploying a mesh web of reactive filaments charged through quantum phase disruption. The effect was immediate. Heath vessels jerked out of alignment, internal coils surged without command, their main cannon's stabilizer lattice began to flutter. Energy readings shifted unevenly across the power core. The cannon's center pulse dropped by 20%. "They're blind," said the systems officer. "Central AI's been split from weapons routing." "Target the relay nodes feeding that cannon," Joran snapped. "Forget the core, cut their legs." Terran ships pivoted, closing in unpredictable swarms. They didn't encircle, they fractured. Attacks came from erratic angles, diving from orbital fall lines, slashing sideways between cannon spires, ramming through exhaust ports. One Terran gunship embedded itself in a sensor dish, detonating a pulse warhead that tore a full communication scaffold apart. Another shuttle flew beneath the cannon's main ring, using magnetic clamps to attach a destabilizer charge directly onto its coolant loop. In 12 minutes, 7 Qth cruisers had been disabled. 3 more collided after a shared rotation model misfired. AI subroutines failed to account for human unpredictability. But Earth paid. A corvette slammed into a plasma scatter zone. Heat consumed its hull in 2 seconds. An orbital hauler took 3 direct hits before rupturing into vacuum. Another was sliced through by automated beamfire when a Keth cruiser rebooted its targeting array. 14 ships lost, Linsek reported from the data booth. Joran didn't blink. Keep them moving. Scatter to level 4 evasion. We're running low on deployable ordnance, Soren cut in from the Second Fleet. Their side might be confused, but we're bleeding. Joran stared at the screen. That cannon hasn't fired. It's not because they want. It's because they can't get a fix. A technician stood up from his console. Power surge at the cannon core. Quantum grid reinitializing. Time to recovery? 65 seconds. Joran walked to the edge of the command pit and leaned in. Give me all current telemetry feeds. I want overlapping stress patterns, not system loads. The data appeared rippled arcs of thermal feedback, kinetic recoil, coolant displacement. He layered the graphs, tracked the gaps. One zone near the lower power loop spiked every 9 seconds. The structural brace hadn't reset since the last hit. The relay failed to normalize discharge. Dear, he muttered. That's it. He turned toward the operators. We've got 1 shot left before that cannon comes online. The room froze. He pointed to a single Terran frigate holding station near the back line. The Dervin, fast, but underarmed. Patch me through to Commander Halvik. It cracked, then a voice answered. Halvik reporting. You've got the only angle, Joran said. I need you to dive under their spin ring, target that cooling arch, full overload. Narrations paused. We won't survive that arc. You don't have to, Joran said quietly. Just reach it. Understood. The channel closed. Outside, the Dervan shifted vector, diving beneath the Keth's outer guard net, accelerating toward the charge gap. No flares, no signal. Joran stood still, watching the countdown bleed lower. 43 seconds to cannon reactivation. He didn't speak again. He didn't have to. The Dervan accelerated toward the fault line with its rear plating torn open and its forward cannons powered down to reroute thrust. Joran stood at the edge of the Resolve's main deck, every screen showing fragmentary telemetry, half corrupted, half blocked by Keth field interference. Outside, the cannon's energy field pulsed in spasms. Neptune's gravity well twisted every trajectory, pulling fire and debris into wild spirals. Halvik's voice echoed over the command relay. Approaching Arc Delta, we'll clip the spin ring before final burst. Joran didn't reply. He could see the cannon's shield dropping, 2 panels folding inward to expose the central reactor. Static burst across the displays as the quantum stabilizers overloaded. The Keth cruisers began to peel away, retreating in curved formation toward Neptune's dark side. They knew. The weapon needed recalibration, and Earth had seconds to act before it came online again. Signal lag rising, the tech officer barked. We're about to lose full lock. Joran turned to engineering. Track the cannon's power spine. Don't monitor it, track it. I want real-time feedback on every thermal pulse. The technician's hands flew over the interface. We're detecting an energy loop. There's an intake line rerouting power through the mid-soar unshielded segment. Can that section be breached? Not with beamfire, it's underneath, you'd have to break it physically. Joran stepped toward the systems table. If we detonate under the spin coil, that loop will feed the shock back into the main drive. How fast would the chain reaction reach the charge stack? 3.6 seconds, depending on spread geometry. The bridge went still. Every officer turned to Joran. He opened the channel. We have 1 target left, beneath the power spine. We need a direct collision. Dozens of Terran captains lit up the comm feed. Give it to me. I've got thrusters online and enough shielding to push through. Permission to burn all core fuel. Joran silenced the channel. He selected one ID manually. Herrick Val, commander of the Braver, a long-range support frigate converted into an assault tug weeks prior. Herrick's face appeared, blood across his collarbone, jaw tight. Joran didn't speak. Herrick gave a single nod. I saw the moth already. You'll never make it out, Joran said. Didn't plan to. He didn't wait for a send-off. The channel cut. The Braver broke formation, flipping onto a collision vector. Its engines flared, not in coordinated bursts, but in a continuous burn so hot the ship's tail glowed white. It tilted just under the cannon's support ring, navigating blind through the spin field. Keth defense turrets tried to reorient, but Earth's jamming grid still threw their targeting off by half a second. Just long enough, one Terran destroyer blocked an incoming torpedo wave to keep Herrick's path clear. It tore open, splitting in silence as its core ruptured and flared outward. Joran clenched the side rail, knuckles locking. The Braver reached the lower arc. Charge depth at 98%, engineering warned. One more cycle and we lose everything. Then came Herrick's last message. To anyone listening, don't let this be the only chapter. The ship dove under the loop. The impact lit the field. A flare of energy burst from the side of the cannon, folding in on itself. Then the entire structure trembled, plates warping as internal feedback raced through its unshielded grid. The cannon core overloaded. A quantum cascade fired backward through the reactor spine. The cannon collapsed. White light poured outward, not in beams, but in a silent, collapsing implosion. The shockwave spun debris sideways. One Keith cruiser was pulled into its own blast funnel. Another careened off Agnes and shattered against Neptune's ring debris. Half the Qth fleet broke apart in the next 60 seconds. Their formations fell into chaos. Systems failing, communication blacked out. Inside the Resolve, the wave hit like a punch. Joran was thrown backward. Consoles burst. Sparks danced through the upper rigging as inertial buffers failed. The floor split open along one bulkhead. Dozens of crew hit the walls or were slammed to the deck. Gravity stabilizers cut out entirely. Emergency clamps locked the core room. Smoke curled upward from ruptured coolant pipes. Joran pushed himself upright using a twisted support strut. Blood ran from his nose. His earpiece screeched with distortion. Report, he gasped. Propulsion is down, said Linzek, coughing hard. We've lost the rear corridor. Fires in Deck 7. Port thrusters offline. How many trapped? Still counting. Joran looked at the forward screen. The cannon was gone. Nothing but fractured rings and broken lattice, drifting where the weapon used to stand. Behind it, fragments of Herrick's frigate spun slowly, pieces fading into Neptune's orbit. The fleet was down to less than 40 ships, half of those already sustaining critical damage. Communications were intermittent. Several vessels no longer answered at all. Joran leaned on the railing, his body shaking. He didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. They hadn't outmaneuvered the Keth. They hadn't overwhelmed them. They'd shown them something worse. They'd rewritten their probability matrix with their deaths. The Resolve drifted above Neptune, lights flickering in half-function. Sections were exposed to vacuum. Fires still crackled behind sealed bulkheads. The bridge was silent, save for the low clatter of tools and the occasional groan of a fractured support beam being welded back together by hand. No one spoke unless it was to confirm a task or locate another survivor. 32 Terran ships remained, none unscarred. Hulls warped, hull armor melted in jagged sheets, transponders long disabled. Communication relays reduced to short-range bursts, patched through overlapping relays. Each captain operated without a common net. Orders were written, encoded, and transmitted ship to ship like it was a forgotten war. The Keths didn't retreat. They stalled. The remaining cruisers locked into fallback grid lines and attempted a counteroffensive, targeting the weaker ships limping from earlier barrages. Earth responded with everything left manual. Missile launches, weapon pods reloaded mid-orbit with human hands gripping rusted steel. There was no symmetry to the final hour. Just survival. Captain Garant's destroyer Mirathorn rammed a Keth vessel nose to nose, crushing both into Neptune's outer storm ring. 2 Terran gunboats used their outer heat shielding as improvised armor, breaching a command cruiser's underbelly and burning it from the inside. The last Keth ship fired until it tore its own emitter coil apart, venting its own gravity to implode against the nearest moon. By the time it ended, the only thing left moving near the cannon's wreckage was a field of drifting wrecks, and the Resolve, tilting to one side, bleeding coolant into space. Joran Valt sat in the medical bay's emergency hold, his right arm locked in a hard splint and a fluid bag strapped to his side. He hadn't slept since the cannon collapsed. A medic tried to check his vitals twice. Both times he waved them off. Linzek arrived with a damaged transmitter in hand. Concord fleet just entered orbit. They're here to enforce a ceasefire. Joran didn't look up. What did we break that they think still exists? They brought 70 ships, flagships powering main broadcast. Let them speak. Linzek waited, then added, they've asked for surrender protocols. Joram finally turned. They asked. No demands, just terms. Joran stood. His ribs shifted under the brace with a crackle of broken tissue. He walked toward the auxiliary transmitter and punched in Earth's full relay. The system hesitated. Then a confirmation line blinked. He uploaded the raw files. Every frame from the Keth relay station. Surveillance footage. Weapon logs. Simulation models. Every energy thread and every test pulse down to its last numeric identifier. Nothing redacted. No translation. No diplomatic filter. Within 6 minutes, Concord fleet transmissions went silent. 40 hours later, a vote was called in the Concord Council chamber, broadcast simultaneously to all 47 member species. The Keth lost all protected status. Their systems were stripped of council authority, their vessels decommissioned, factories shuttered. No vote opposed, no abstention recorded. Earth did not attend the session. In Geneva, the Terran Compact received 6 delegation envoys from non-Concord civilizations. They didn't come to negotiate reparations. They came to join. A new alignment was proposed, built not on assumption, but on consequence. The Terran Alliance Charter passed within 4 days. No diplomatic draft, no ceremonial archive. Every member swore a single clause. Any species that attacks another's homeworld forfeits the right to speak. The Keth sent no reply. In the middle of the Pacific, construction bots cut deep into the ocean floor, anchoring a monument ring exactly where the tsunami first struck. It rose in steel tiers, cold, wide, and open to sky. 800 million names were etched into modular plasma glass plates layered beneath protective casing. The monument didn't broadcast anything. No anthem, no dedication. Just wait. Pilgrims arrived by the millions. Some left pieces of clothing or artifacts from cities now gone. Others brought nothing, just walked the edge, pausing where water once swallowed everything they loved. Joran stood there once, no guards, no notice. He didn't speak. He touched a single name. Then walked away. Back in the Arctic Command archive, buried under permafrost, reinforced with neutron brick, Joran accessed his final authorization key. The chamber lights activated one by one as he passed each checkpoint. Servers clicked to life behind sealed casings. Each one humming low with stored tactical models, wargame simulations, every encrypted log from the Resolve's final days. He stood before the central console. No one else was with him. He keyed in a direct line and triggered a deletion protocol. A cascading wipe ran across 6 mirrored databanks. The files didn't compress. They didn't archive. They vanished. He didn't flinch as they burned, because it wasn't about secrecy. It was about denial of repetition. He walked out without locking the door behind him. The final report Earth issued to the Concord contained no demands, no trade renegotiations, no exit clause. Just 2 words. Never again. The Concorde never replied. But their fleets withdrew from Terran orbit. Their surveillance gates were reprogrammed to exclude Earth's frequency range. Their embassies remained, but vacant. From the edge of Mars, new transmission towers relayed Earth's signal outward into unaligned sectors. Terran vessels now crossed trade lines without interference. Mining routes were redrawn, defense rings expanded. Every ship now carried a black strip along the keel, a silent mark of where they'd stood. The Resolve was towed back home 2 weeks later, too damaged to fly again. Its bridge deck was sealed, no memorial, no ceremony. Just a single plaque in the cold steel. Herrick Val and the crew that made the impossible real. Joran retired to a low-orbit station circling Titan. No interviews, no biographies. He refused all attempts at reconstruction of the battle. He kept one thing: a datapad. On it, only a single entry. They hoped a single strike would divide us. Instead, it defined us. What would you have done if Earth was in your hands? Drop your answer in the comments. If this story made your blood run cold, in a good way, hit that like button, share it, and subscribe for more cold, calculated human victories. New uploads every single day.